Well, thank you for joining the Grim and Bloody Theater. We're part of the Death Parade Film Fest. And if you're watching this, then thank you for your patronage and for watching Roshni Bhatia's Shadow at the Door. She's definitely a friend of the fest. We have screened a number of her films. In fact, this is number 4, and we are absolutely humbled that she has agreed to come on today and talk about the latest short and everything around it and what's new for Roshni. She's definitely been busy. Every film has had a lengthy festival run, so even spending a few minutes with us is an absolute pleasure. Thank you, Roshni, for coming on today. And I'll go ahead and introduce my host, because without them, this would not be possible. Joe Flynn, producer, host, horror meister, consistent one who's never missed a show. Thank you, Joe.
That's right. I try not to miss, but the tall guy back there might get me next.
We'll be careful. Kevin Nicholson, writer, Horror Newsnet. How you doing, Kevin?
Doing fine. Still bowled over by Shadow on the Door. Gotta talk about it.
It was an absolute gem. Mm-hmm. Al Omega, host of Creature Features. As always, Al, thank you for taking time coming on the show with us.
Always happy to be here with you guys.
So, Shadow at the Door, another one of your shorts, Roshni, that has absolute all the atmosphere and tension and excellent use of lighting. As I mentioned on the film page, this has become a signature for you. Dare I say, it's almost like Carpenter. When you see a film, I know I've mentioned this actually before, when you see a film from a director, they have their signature all over it. You can tell the quality is there. There's just a flair that you put in your films that even with a more colorful, lighted film like Celebrity Stalker that we screened previously, that had a different kind of flow to it. You can still feel that skill behind the camera, and that was another one that we had a pleasure watching and talking with you about. So, Shadow at the Door, tell us about the inspiration for it. Tell us about the lead actress, Anastasia, who did a marvelous job conveying both dread, and towards the end, it felt like a little bit of an acceptance with her dreamscape and the heavy message at the end. So I'll give you the floor.
Yeah, first of all, thank you for having me. I love coming back to this festival. I couldn't recommend it enough. I've always had such a wonderful time. And, Dark Passage, Celebrity Stalker, Plasmid, I'm like, the next one has to be Shadow at the Door. And I hope you keep taking more films, because it's just been so amazing talking to you and being a part of Death Parade. Shadow at the Door is about a young woman searching for an intruder in a home, but slowly realizes that what she's actually not looking for is something she refuses to see. And so it is a psychological horror, I would say, and it's really pithy, doesn't have any dialogue. The inspiration for that, I would say, was we graduated from film school, and I say the story a lot, but it was so effective. We graduated from film school, and we were so done with the whole slow process of getting in permits. I mean, we did get permits, but just the whole lengthy process of waiting for departments to act to get a movie made and then go through post, and that's its own version of time. And so once we got out of film school, I pitched my producer, Virginia Blatter, and my other producer, my executive producer, Andrew Main, and we just came to this conclusion that let's just keep making horror short films. And not necessarily horror, it could be sci-fi, action, whatever, but just let's start making shorts and not be stuck on this one specific one and hope that it sticks at like a billion film festivals. And so Shadow at the Door was the first film we made once we graduated, and it turned out to be a success, not only for its length, but also for the pithiness, because there's a big twist in the end. The inspiration for this, for the story itself, was that I wanted to do something that had mental health in it. And I feel like horror as a genre, there's so many ways to tackle it. There's slasher, there's psychological, there's so many ways of going about with how you want to tell your story. But I feel like if I want to tell a story, I want to make sure it has some depth to it, a meaning to it, so that when you walk out, you're thinking about it, or in a way you can relate to the character or the story or the premise itself. And so I was listening to this Q&A with Jason Blum, and he was talking about how Blumhouse takes in projects that has like sort of a mental health aspect or something emotional to it that is then wrapped in a skin of horror. And that's what that kind of stuck with me. And I was like, let me do mental health. Let me try dealing with suicide or something like that. And so I drew, inspiration from my life and lives of others. I struggle with depression. We all struggle with depression in one form or the other. We don't talk about it. We don't realize it, but it is prevalent. And so I use that idea to just, like you would notice in the movie, there's like an alcohol bottle, a rose, a dead rose. And so I use these little details to tell the story about this girl who struggled with mental health, and just use the aspect of horror to convey that story that it does not have a motivational ending, but it's just the idea that you're not alone. And so the idea of Shatter the Door was to say something that has something true to say, and then scare the audience by the end of it, so that they walk out and they're like, okay, I will watch that again, or I want to watch more content like that. I think with Anastasia is such a wonderful actress, because when I think in most of the movies that I've done with her, she doesn't have any dialogue, or she has a word here and there. And I think part of it is like, she emotes so well. It's so hard to act without saying a word,
Yeah.
And so I met Anastasia through NYFA, Film School, New York Film Academy. And I asked her, do you want to I saw her work and I was like, you do such good acting without any dialogue. Would you be interested in working on this project? And she instantly said yes. And she was very proactive, very patient. And, I met with her a few times, and she asked me the good questions that every actor should. What is the backstory? What is my motivation? What is my goal? What is my internal, external, all the details. And we try to work on the character more. And then from there on, we just shot the movie in one night in a small little apartment. It was crammed with like 8 to 12 crew members, but we managed to pull it off.
Nice.
Fantastic. I do have one really quick question, which I truly liked this film. It was very filmed beautifully, and I also enjoyed the music, which was a big part of this film. If people don't, when you see the film, you'll know about that, But I do have to say, it was brilliantly done by you and everyone else on the crew and cast.
Yeah. The music was like, we wanted to use like some sort of eerie, spooky, upbeat music that then wavers into something more sinister. So even though it's one track that if you play it on its own sounds like an upbeat track, we tried to, like, while she's in the bathroom, to her leaving the bathroom and walking around the living room and returning, the music alters. There's a reverberation. There is the way it becomes bassy after a point. So there's something ominous about the whole thing, and that is just through that. And I think we started realizing that by the time we shot the film, we were like, I knew I didn't want to use just sound effects. I wanted to try and play on some sort of like an Elvis, like a 60s, 70s type of a music, which is royalty free, but works.
Yes.
Now, may I?
Please.
I didn't want to cut off Joe, but I did want to jump in early on this. And I did want to say that, you're right. People don't talk enough about depression. And I myself have been diagnosed with severe long-term depression about 20 years ago. So when I see things like this, they are hitting close to home. So I really appreciated that you are trying to come up with some lovely horror, and you did a very good job of it. And I think actually it helps communicate the loneliness, or the isolation at least, that people who get depressed have. So you've done a wonderful job with that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's not easy because again, like I said, depression can be dealt with in many ways. For me, I like to talk to people. Some people like to repress their feelings. My boyfriend, he's a producer. The way he deals with depression is he likes to work because that gets his mind off of it. We all have our ways of dealing with it. And with this story, again, not hopeful. I do not recommend the ending at all to anybody sitting at home, but it's just to remind people that you're not alone. And I think the power in just creating is very different, because my most depressed days are the days that I don't do anything, and I don't realize it because I'm liking that moment where I'm not doing anything, but I'm also like, oh my god, I just wasted this entire day and now I feel worse. So for me it's like I just got to keep creating content. Like now I'm in post with another short film, and that is only because now I'm doing it so late, I'm procrastinating. But that phase that I procrastinated was the worst period, and I feel like I keep coming back, and we all have that thing in us, and it's just a reminder that just you do you, but just make sure you're moving forward.
Well, you're doing a wonderful job of it. So while I of course don't want you to be depressed, it's the side effect is giving us these wonderful shorts, and we're enjoying them ever so much.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I want to diverge off of this one just a little bit. Dark Passage. I'm almost sure I saw that.
Yeah, we did.
Yes, but it was an instructional thing on how you did the lighting, or how lighting like that could be achieved.
Oh yeah, that was a really nice trick. Yes.
Yeah. So it was nice to get to come back and see you again. So, like I said, keep this up. You're doing some really, I don't want to say, not that it's not complex, but it's good, solid, scary stuff. So many people get caught up trying to make, the blood squirt here, or something like that, where it becomes a trick shot or something. But no, this is good, solid work.
It seems like it comes effortlessly. It just kind of just flows, and anyone who's ever tried to put a short together or a film knows that that's not the case. Even with a skilled director. I think you mentioned it before, Al, or was it Joe, that it's also the crew that you have appointed to the film that also makes a huge difference. You can have the best director in the world, but if your sound guy doesn't know what he's doing, if your lighting guy didn't bring the right equipment, and he says, well, this is what I got, it's gonna have to work. If your editing guy says, well, I think the film should actually look like this, and it has, it's completely wrong. That actually happened to me. I had to fire a guy. It was just completely not what the film was supposed to be. That can sabotage a film. So it's a double whammy when you have a good director, writer such as yourself. One, your vision is excellent, and two, the execution is just as good. And when you can start hammering both of those and you're putting out quality stuff, just results are there. Your long festival runs, you're very busy. I'm actually excited to see what you got cooking up next, because it's just one after another, and we're just excited. I'm excited to see you take off in your career.
Yep.
Thank you. That means so much to me. And to your point about crew, crew is so important. Initially, when I started filmmaking, I was like, no, I want the most professional crew. I don't care if you don't know how to do it, you don't have experience. And I had such an ignorant point of view when it came to filmmaking. And eventually, when I started working with people from film school, outside film school, just creatives, meeting people in LA, I learned that it does not matter how much work you've produced as a gaffer or a DP, or how little experience you have, or how much, as long as you're proactive and you're willing to make things happen and not giving answers like, I'm sorry, I cannot do this, just from the get-go, then if you are that kind of a person who's proactive, then it makes not only your career more successful in the industry, but people want to work with you, and that's what I felt with my crew members. Are my friends. They are not just crew members that I know I'm going to bring them up again, because I keep checking on them. I let them know about the festival selections, and they also want to come back and work with me, because I always want to make sure that they feel important and vice versa. And when they show up on set, we make sure that, hey, if you can't figure this out, we will figure this out together. I don't want to push somebody into just one role. And there's a little caveat to that you don't want to make somebody do something they are not a pro at. But then when you're in like a small budget shoot and you are proactive in the sense that you're willing to try different things, it makes it a lot more fun. And then you're making mistakes and you're learning from them. And that's what all our films are about. None of them were like, oh, this is perfect, this is how I visualized it, and this is how it turned out. Because the vision comes the moment you see it on the monitor. Before that, it's just like, oh, this is the storyboard, this is how I see it. But things change. Now, the last film I did was in July, which was a while back, but I was dreading post because I wasn't completely happy with what I shot. But that's us coming out of post-COVID, because I didn't shoot anything for the past year, and just jumping back into shorts was a bit of a jump, and it was disorienting because I couldn't visualize anything. And so again, it just comes down to creating stuff and just enjoy, don't stress. And that's something I have to remind myself literally all the time. What's the worst thing that could happen? Yeah.
I gotta ask you, Roshni, you one of the things I took away from this short is that you have, and this is kind of, as Anthony mentioned at the top of the show, something that is I don't know, a tool of yours, something that is that you seem to do quite a bit, which is lack of dialogue. And I thought it left the short in a really dreamlike in a state. And I thought that any dialogue that would be brought into this would be clunky, and it would absolutely just destroy the narrative. So did you have a thought of that going in, that there was just going to be, I want to make sure that there's minimal, if no dialogue whatsoever?
Yeah, I have always approached writing and I think, again, that's something you learn. But in the beginning, I used to write a lot of dialogue, bad dialogue, but I just stopped doing that because I felt like if it's not progressing my story, if I don't need it, why should I add it? And that was something that I started becoming very, very, meticulous about. Whenever I wrote screenplays, I try not to insert dialogue. Now I'm learning how to do it because I didn't do it in all these shorts. And now that I'm writing more, I feel like, okay, I should practice my dialogue skills. But when it comes to these short, pithy horror movies, I try to leave it more to the show, don't tell aspect. If it doesn't need it, why put it?
Right. Yeah.
And it all comes down to what your story is about, right? Because if it's about a conversation between a boyfriend and girlfriend, where the girlfriend finds out her boyfriend is a vampire, you do need a bit of dialogue in that. Or it depends what the environment is, if it's not a shadow at the door in that moment. For me, it was like I had the goal that I want her to walk around and discover, and in the end, this is the twist.
Can I ask you how long it took you to do this?
The writing process, from thinking about it to writing took about a week, a solid week. And then when I reached out to my crew, my producers, that took another week or two. And then we just shot it in my apartment. So we didn't have to do any scouting. The 2 weeks of pre-production, that would have, even if it was 2 weeks, I think it's one, but if it was 2 weeks, it would have just gone into what equipments are we going to use? What is my goal? What are the shots? What is the mood? And then we shot it in one night. We just got our friends together. Most of them were from film school. Some were outside of film school. I have a very good friend of mine, Jonathan, big shout out to him, who's been on all my short films. And anytime I felt like we had a little problem, he was the one. He was, by the end of my movies, I always have to text him, what credit do you want? Because it's like he's done everything. And he's not learned. He didn't go to film school. He learned everything on YouTube. He got his own lighting gear, his own sound gear, and he's just like actively learning and trying new things. When you don't even say a word. when you don't even do something, or when there's, when you don't think about a thing, he's like, Roshni, I figured this out, just so you know. I'm like, great, awesome. I don't even have to bat an eye as a director, because especially on low budget projects, as a director, you're thinking of so many different things at the same time. And Jonathan, I gave him the credit of an engineer because he does everything.
There you go.
That's great. Well, what do you have? You alluded to you have another short in post, Roshni. Do you want to talk about it a little bit, or you want to save that for another time?
No, sure. I can talk about it. We shot it in July. It was it's gonna be again a very short, like 2 or 3 minutes long. Anastasia is also acting in it.
Okay.
And then we got this another actor I met recently, right before the shoot, and got him in. And we shot it in North Hollywood, and it should be out in a month. It's horror. It's something to do with a Ouija board, but it has that.
Oh, I don't mess with those. Sorry. I actually believe in Ouija boards.
Hey,
I don't fuck with Ouija boards.
Yeah, now we know what to get Anthony for his birthday.
I never see a Ouija board in my house. Hell no. That shit
Really?
For Anthony's birthday, we're going to rig a Ouija board and just have it, just start moving while he's like laying in bed or something.
I'll watch any movie, but you put a Ouija board in front, I'm like, get that out of here.
Well, you guys, Kevin, Al, Joe, you gotta make sure you put him in his chair, tape him up, and put my movie on so he has to watch it. He's got no choice.
There you
won't
go.
have to tape him up for that. He'll want to watch it.
Well, thank you for coming on, Roshni. Absolute pleasure as always. It's always wonderful watching your film because we can just sit back and relax. We know we're in the hands of someone that's going to give us some quality entertainment, no matter the length. And if you ever go into feature-length films, then I think you definitely have it. So, lastly, where can everyone follow your work? Do you have a website, social media?
Yeah, I'm at Instagram, Roshni Bhatia. I am on Twitter, Rush Bhatia. And if you want to check me out on my website, my movies and stuff, you can do RoshniBhatia.com, RoshniRushBhatia.com, whatever you do, it'll take you there. But yeah, I'll keep an eye out. I do have a short story coming out next year, March. It's in the Alien vs. Predator anthology world. I have a little short story coming up, my first solo. So keep an eye out.
All right.
Yay! Can't
Awesome.
wait.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for joining the Grim and Bloody Theater as we talk with Roshni about Shout Out the Door. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you want to watch more features and shorts, go to deathparadefilmfest.eventive.org. And you have December 4th through the 7th to start any film. You have 1 week from there to go ahead and complete it. So thank you for joining the Grim and Bloody podcast, the theater, and hope you enjoy the rest of the festival. Take care, guys.